All right, welcome everybody to Veterans for Cannabis. My name is Carlos Muñoz. I'm your host alongside Jared Campbell. Today we're just going to follow up on uh, last week's discussion. Jared, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Let's go ahead and we're gonna kind of you know kind of start off where we left off. We were talking about the Senate Texas Bill 3, and we were talking about how Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was in opposition to THC. But what was funny about that? The same day we posted the video, the uh, the Texas governor, he Greg Abbott vetoed it. Basically, I found out it was vetoed basically the same day we posted the video. So, and that kind of brings up a little more work that has to be done because you know, I'm pretty sure that Dan Patrick is probably not going to stop his opposition to the THC. So I'm pretty sure, even though it's looking good now, there's always work that has to be done, and I believe that's where our voices continue to make an impact. We got to continue to speak out and
Yeah,
and advocacy for cannabis for veterans and for everybody, just not veterans, but there's
yeah,
everybody can benefit from cannabis. Carlos.
yeah. No, I agree with you, my man. I think later on that week as well, Senate Bill number 3 also was proposed by it was bipartisan. It was by both parties. And pretty much what that bill stated, and it's also in our page, go look at it, saying that it will, so because at one point, right, the VA doctors and VA as an entity were prohibited from even speaking about cannabis, right? And although veterans like me, I pretty open about it and I talked to my doctor about it, but it was something that he's not allowed to respond to me with, okay, that's a good idea, you know. But anyways, Senate Bill number 3, pretty much what it did is, if it passes, it's going to give the federal government, the ability to not prescribe but recommend, if I'm not mistaken, the use of cannabis to veterans and the research of psychedelics, cannabis on veterans. So, and I like what you say, thank God to uh, Governor Abbott, I think we're moving the clock the way it's supposed to, but moving the needle. We need to do a little, there's so much work still left to do. So much work. And I just wrote a letter to Congress, actually, and that I'm about to send. And pretty much what I'm trying to convey in my letter is the my experience as a third generation veteran and how have seen cannabis work on very traumatic people on a positive way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, you were talking about some of the progress that's being made with the VA, and that's what we were kind of talking about on our page a few days ago with the steps that are being made in Congress. They're making progress on removing some of those outdated VA policies that block veterans from discussing
Yeah,
or assessing. I think you were talking about directive. What is it? Directive 1315 is what you're talking
yeah,
about. And yeah, those are some huge wins for us.
yeah.
One is
You,
House Amendment, yeah, the psychedelics, all that what you're mentioning. That's really good stuff. We're really going in the right direction, or at least
right.
Congress is for now. And I think that's
For
where,
for now,
yeah, for now, and that's where our
yeah.
voices need to make that impact, that difference.
I think what I foresee happening, okay, and don't quote me on this, but what I foresee happening here in next coming months is they're going to recategorize the cannabis from 1 to 2, hopefully 3. right? Because with the federal government, pushing this legislation, they do have to classify it again, away from narcotic number one, the first, right, along with heroin and cocaine, and that is insane. How, anyhow, but that's what I foresee happening, right? The classification, the reclassification of cannabis. Um, so the only question that maybe you can answer this to me, right? I'm in a state where cannabis is not legal, right?
Right.
So if the VA were to recommend it, how would that change?
Hmm. That's a great question.
That you understand what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's why I said the classification part. I think that's why they're going to classify it differently. That's the only way that this bill is going to work.
You know that you bring up a really good question because it kind of makes me think about my own journey. Because when I was looking into cannabis and when I got off all the medications the VA had me on, the VA was really upset that I even had mentioned
Mhm.
cannabis. And I'm actually in a state where it's legal, where
Yeah,
I can walk to a shop. I mean, I'm walking distance to a cannabis shop. And so to live in a state where it's legal and we have plenty of shops, and for the VA to still not talk to a veteran in a state where it's legal,
yeah,
that's a really hard
yeah,
question for me to
yeah,
answer because we get pushed back here
yeah.
in a state where it's legal. If that makes sense, it's crazy.
You know,
Yeah.
generally, what my dog have asked me before, he makes sure that I get it from a safe place. He does not recommend it. He does not promote it. But when I said this is what I do to pain relief, he asked me, "You get it from a safe place?" I said, "Yeah, I got a medical cannabis license for and I get it from a dispensary."
Right.
So uh, uh, you know, I'm gonna joke about something real quick, and it's funny. You said something like, "You are a walking distance away from a cannabis shop." Back when I was young, I loved being walking distance away from the shop at 24 hours. Because we can run to the shop and get a bill wrong or a booth wrong, right? Now I just want to be, around the corner from a cannabis shop. That would be
it
so cool. That would be
is.
so broke, man.
Do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Um, but on a serious note, I'm changing the conversation. Okay, again, you know, I'm going to say this. The following comment it's not meant to be a political comment, nor a policy view, candidate, whatever political people want to think about. It is a factual thing. I did a research on the contribution, pharmaceutical contribution for the 2024 election.
Hmm.
Okay, now I would challenge everybody to look at the numbers, especially for the presidency, and how insane. Like Ka- Kamala Harris was getting nearly 3 times the amount that Trump did from pharmaceuticals.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, I think Trump got like $1 million. Kamala had like $4 million. Bernie Sanders got called out in in Congress the other day, call out because supposedly he's been getting like millions and millions of dollars from pharmaceutical. I'm not even going to talk about the leak top, or in alcohol in beer states like mine, Wisconsin, right? But it does make me wonder, how far does these contributions go in the decision making?
You know,
Because and the reason I say this, and I'm gonna let you answer this in a second, but the reason I say it is because there's study shows that people that smoke cannabis tend to lower the amount of alcohol they consume, if not stop it completely, right? So, or pharmaceuticals again, right? Like, why do we need blood pressure medicine if cannabis can help you, right? So, I just really wonder, how much these contributions had to do with the law.
well,
What do you think?
yeah, you always have to always follow the money first, right? And it's in everything,
Yeah,
right? Politics, you always follow the money. Doesn't matter what side, left, right, just follow the money, right? There's
yeah,
money, there's a
you know,
narrative, there's an agenda, there's propaganda. There's all
yeah.
kinds of. But you know, have you ever wondered why alcohol is so accessible? Right? It's really easy, you know. But if
Oh,
you
yeah,
but if yeah, but alcohol though, it's cigarettes. But
yeah,
you know, it's almost as if our system is built on stressing us out, so it forces people to drink, right? And
yeah,
the more a person drinks, the more problems they're going to have, right?
yeah,
Not only probably from a physical standpoint, but maybe deep emotional, even health at some point. And our
yeah.
system, we know, is built on keeping us sick, right? So
Right.
you have drug addicts, you have alcoholics,
Mhm.
you have broken down, depressed people
Yeah,
all the time. You can actually control those people too, though, right?
yeah,
Control them, right? You create distractions, which we have, okay? Now, getting to cannabis, right? Cannabis is freedom. Right? To answer your question, I haven't drank since 2019 because of cannabis. I haven't had any alcohol, none. Um, for me,
yeah,
cannabis, yeah, I heard that. It's beautiful. Yes.
yes,
Uh,
sir.
cannabis is, for me, it was freedom. Like I said, I haven't drank since 2019.
Yeah,
Cannabis took that urge away from me from drinking. I stopped smokeless tobacco. Cannabis took that urge away. Um, I started to lose weight in 2019, a lot of weight. And then I ended up getting COVID in 2021, which kind of really set my health in an uproar. But,
yeah,
you know, I think with our politicians, right, it's always the money, right?
mhm,
They're always, I think a lot of it has to do with money. I really do. I really do.
yeah.
I don't know why
You know,
it's
you,
but then again, keeping us sick is the whole idea, though, too. So if
yeah,
cannabis can help you, like you made it when you were talking about blood pressure with cannabis, I know that I put
yeah,
on our page, I was talking about the terpene humulene. It helps to, that terpene can also help to regulate your blood pressure naturally, and it can help if you want to cut appetite, like if you don't want to eat as much. Find
yeah,
strength high in that terpene humulene
yeah.
will help with blood pressure and not eating as much snacking.
Right. Yeah. But I do. I want to be. I want to be. I love being the devil's advocate here. Okay. Because those people that promote alcohol can say the same thing about cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you this much, man. I don't think alcohol is the problem. Okay. There's culture like in Europe, 2,000 year culture that beer and wine is part of their daily routine and they live a healthy life, right? And it also been studies that alcohol in moderation could be beneficial for health. Okay, but it is the excessive amount of drinking that becomes an issue. I'm sure just like many other things. The same can be said with weed, with cannabis, right? Excessive amount, if you wake up and you smoke nonstop 24/7, right? I think that could be an issue,
Right.
right? I think that could be an issue, right?
Right.
there's nothing wrong. And again, with alcohol, getting a raining, thundering day like today, sit down with a glass of bourbon double need, and a nice cigar and enjoy the weather. There's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I do that. I- And I don't drink. And I don't drink, right?
Right.
My point is, right, that there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong. And, you know, uh, um, mushrooms, that's a perfect example too, I'm a huge believer of microdosing on psychedelics, right? But that is where I draw the line, the microdosing part. I won't do it to go to the club or going to the rave and doing all this crazy stuff. That is not what I do it for, right? So we do have to draw the line both in alcohol and everything else on, what is the unhealthy, where does it become unhealthy, right? And that's me being at the, because the argument can go around in a circle between every substance that to man today, you know, um, payments, you know, payments are necessary to some folks. It's just the way it is. Um, in the other hand, payments can also be abused that could get you hooked up to, heroin, meth, or even worse, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, worse could be, you know, uh, um, anyhow, right? So we need to realize, right, that the problem overall is not only the excessive use of anything, but also the greed that comes with it.
Right.
Okay, and if it could be, that could easily be said about weed too. How
Right.
many people got killed in the, you know, trafficking weed? Let's say, for example, right? Which, in my opinion, should never have been because weed should be legal, should have been legal. But that's another argument, right? Uh, um, but going back, man, to the devil's advocate part, right? When we talk about alcohol and all that stuff, man, I want to be careful when we say, it is bad to drink, and I stopped drinking because I stopped drinking not because it's bad. I stopped drinking because I was doing it too much, and it was affecting my body because of the way I was drinking. Right? That's why I stopped drinking. Okay. Um, why did I choose cannabis? I mean, let's be real, right? Um, the numb feeling is great, especially on a rainy day. Okay. Uh, sleep is great with sleep, better than taking treatment, right? Appetite. What else can I say, right? There's benefits, but we cannot pretend that there's not negative effects to that too. Right? So I want to be very careful when talking down on alcohol and talking up on cannabis because they both can be very harmful to you if you think correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yes.
You know, uh, um, but going back to the legalization, and that is the other part that I understand, right? Alcohol and nicotine does have a direct link to heart issues, kidney issues, so forth and so on, right?
Yes.
And it's no, right? So why is that? Why is that legal in cannabis? It's not,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and that is my key sense right there, man. I've been going on 20 minutes, man. I'm gonna let you talk. Anything that you want to say?
Oh no, man. I'm right there with you. I mean, I know why I chose cannabis. It's kind of the same reasons that you chose it. I mean, like I said, I feel like in a way I was kind of led to it. It was,
Yeah,
going into a shop for the first time for me was illuminating, and to know that there's so many ways that like I say over and over again that you can use cannabis. It just
Yeah,
isn't smoking. There's topicals, there's creams, there's syrups,
yeah,
there's tincture oils, there's edibles, there's cookies, I mean, they have a lot of stuff now. I mean, I
yeah,
know one of the shops I've been into, they have like hemp Epsom salt, like cannabis
right.
Epsom salt, which is very interesting. So they're getting out
Yeah,
there
that's interesting.
to
Yeah,
use cannabis for healing. So yeah,
yeah. No, and I agree, man. Again, I know why I chose cannabis. I was introduced to cannabis by a peer of mine who saw me struggle. I wasn't sleeping, and he got like, "Look, man, try this gummy, bro." And I slept like a baby. It was life saving to me. To me, it was life saving. You know, yeah, and I know a lot of veterans that can say the same thing. Uh, uh, um, yeah, and that's that. I really hope they legalize and they do more research and there's so much money in that industry, especially with the federal government. If they tax them, what they do alcohol and cigarettes. Dude, some of this deficit you know, could be taken care of within 10 years if that long, right? We can get better health systems, for the state. We can get better education. We can get better roads. I mean, there's a thousand things, but we need to figure out how to legalize it and how laws are going to affect it, right?
yeah.
Is it going to be a DWI? Is it going to be a OWI? I mean, if you get caught driving, what's going to be the left and right limit?
Yeah, that's interesting you brought that up because I was thinking about that today. I was I was sitting in church and thinking about uh, well,
Yeah,
it being legalized because I was thinking about the revenue that would generate, and
right.
that was the same thing you were thinking. Healthcare, roads, infrastructure. There's so much. I was thinking in my head. I wish I could figure it out. Like how much could it bring in, like the revenue, and just think about the things we could do. It's
I
amazing.
mean, yeah, honestly, if you really want to think, get a number, man, use California as a model and put that in a 50 states nationwide. Just think about how much money do they have in 1 year and multiply that times 50.
Wow.
That would be a very good guess. Or maybe getting the medium of all the states that legalize it first year fail. What they got in taxes. We can get a sum of all of them and then get the medium. What was the average?
Yeah,
And
because
again, that could be a real good forecast. Of course, with a margin of error somewhere in between, right?
right.
But just think, I mean, holy crap, how much money can they make?
Oh man, a lot. A lot could be done. Really, a lot could be done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, but with that, man, again, it's going on 25 minutes. I do not want to overdo it. I want people to listen to us. But the one thing I'm going to leave everybody with is don't forget, write your representative, state and federal, whether it's your congressman, your senator, or whatever you want to write. You let them know where you stand with this issue, because I for sure am doing that. Okay, and be open-minded. There's gonna be a lot of weird things that's going. Once I start, the needle start moving on the legalization. What is it gonna look like? So write your Congress people, be patient, get ready, man. Especially for veterans, I think that's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
You know. Next week, man, I do want to touch a little more. I want to follow up on both Texas and how the House bill or the Senate bill to see where they at and talk more about the provisions. So let's do some homework on that and see what we are with that.
Sounds good, my brother. Sounds good.
All right, brother. All right.
Good.
In saying that, anything else? Anything you want to leave us with, man?
Well, I just want to encourage. I want to encourage more veterans to come on here. Um,
Yeah,
it'd be really cool to hear some more voices and get to know more out there.
yeah,
So I encourage you all to please come on. We need more people to share out our videos that would help on all of our platforms, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. Share us out. We encourage you guys to come on. It would be really be cool. So,
yeah. And if you want to come up, just go to our Facebook or our platform, leave us a message. We'll make sure we get you hooked up with the link and the time and the channel, and we can go from there. So, but I do like that, man. Good idea.
yes, absolutely.
All right. So yeah, man. I'm gonna enjoy this weather, and yeah, I'm from there. Let's go. Right.
Right,
So let's go ahead. Um, yeah, go ahead. Stop the recording.
right. Everyone, God bless you all.